that one. Uh, so, Angela, what are your thoughts on navigating pivots? Because, like all of us, you pivoted into this industry.
I did. Yeah. Um, growing up, my dad was an attorney and my mom was an accountant. And we lived in a small town. So I kind of grew up in a box of rules. Everything was very black and white. By the time I got into my college years, had gotten really committed to a career in horse training and breeding and competing. And um, when I was 25, had a micro preemie. And that was the day everything changes. Everything drops and your whole life just becomes really narrowly focused on this child and their needs. So I think that the first time that women kind of naturally go through that pivot is during motherhood, right? Um, and then later, my, you know, daughter grew up and moved on, and then my parents started needing me more and more. And that was another big pivot, and so throughout those periods of life, I think that there's just kind of a natural transition. Um, I think once you become a mother, you start to learn that you can only control what you can control. And there's going to be a whole lot of things that happen that are not in your control. But those things influence your decisions all the time. So you have to stay really flexible, really adaptable, and really resourceful because you just don't know. You really don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next. You know, Man makes plans and God laughs. Very true. So I think all you can really do is having a plan is terrific. And as long as you're moving in that general direction, you're doing pretty well. But it doesn't have to rigidly be step 1 through 100. I think you need to continually be reevaluating, adjusting. You have to take tiny adjustments where they're needed. So, yeah, and I think women kind of do that naturally, because motherhood kind of forces you into a pivot that nobody is really prepared for at all when it happens, and it doesn't come with instructions.
No.
So yeah, you just kind of learn that you have to figure it out along the way. You don't have any other option but just figure it out. And
Okay,
My
so
yeah.
my daughter said to me not too long ago, she said, Mom, I just realized you were winging it. I'm like, well, yeah, everybody wings it.
Everybody was.
Absolutely, we all are.
Yeah.
You come out with a placenta, not an instruction manual.
Exactly.
that's a good one. Um,
Yeah.
so, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
One person's idea of the right thing to do might be the right thing for them, but you just always have to consider that. Be ready to think outside the box, for
Or get rid of the
for
box. So, so to
exactly.
say, I get the impression that your path has been a very straight path. I think that you were born an activist and a community leader. and that is where your focus is and that is where your passion is. But so in doing that, in your work with the community and everything that you have been building there in Massachusetts, um, have there been pivots?
Absolutely. I think, like you said, I was born this way. I think I had to learn to pivot at a very young age. It started for me when my mom got sick with thyroid disease. And at that time, it was something very new. So I had to take on a lot of the motherly responsibilities and roles. So as a child, I had to learn to pivot from a childhood atmosphere to being an adult very early on. I think that's also what helped draw out the advocate in me. Um, I feel like even then I had to learn to pivot when I moved from Cape Cod, where I grew up, which was a very different atmosphere, to Brockton, Massachusetts. I had to learn how to pivot and learn for myself, really, because the equity and access was different. So that was one of the first times I knew, like, during my journey, I'm going to have to keep pivoting. It wasn't going to stop there. More recently, in the cannabis industry, me and my husband both were social equity participants, and we want to do social consumption. But Massachusetts is taking very long in writing those regulations for social consumption. So I've had to pivot recently, and I started looking at the regulations and laws and kind of things that help Massachusetts be equitable, but also some of the things that are harming us in Massachusetts and why we can't strive and get a business open, especially being social equity participants, where there's supposed to be this broad structure of support for us, where there's really not. It's for some people, but if you don't know how to pivot, like you guys were saying, into other parts of the industry, or if you don't want to give up your dream for what you're trying to do, then it becomes hard. So I decided to pivot in to going into politics and to fight for my community and some of the things that I see are not changing, not only at the state level, but at the federal level. I think going to the federal level is where really I can create the most change, because I think what's going on currently, so many people are having to pivot in their life situations because the quality of life isn't, it's really not there right now. So that's
Okay, I'm
my
going to ask you all a really hard, well, kind of a hard question. I find that I do get messages from women who have lost their jobs in the cannabis industry, have not been able to find another job, and are at at a breaking point. They're on the ledge. So I'm going to ask each one of you, what is the pep talk or the motivational, inspirational talk that you would give that woman who's standing on the ledge, who does not see that there is a future, does not see where to go next, and has felt like no one sees them. And so think about that. And actually, Sheena, I'm going to start with you because I'm thinking that you've had to talk a few women off the ledge.
um, yeah, I was actually thinking, as you were talking, I hope she doesn't pick me first.
Oh, okay. Well, let me tell
I'm
you
joking.
what.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Okay.
It's just no. I'm thinking because I say that because I I think every woman's probably had to have that conversation, um, to them, for them. Um, I know I have had my moments as well. I don't my my response to talking women off the ledge evolved into higher. That's
So
what that was.
should I rephrase that and ask you, how do you talk yourself off the ledge?
Um, it would be the same, most likely, in a roundabout way answer, is that One, as women, we don't really have the good fortune to be lackadaisical or not steadfast in maintaining our mental health, right?
Mhm.
Because we're too important and too responsible to too many people and too many things. But that in turn impacts your mental health, right? Because it's heavy. It's a lot of weight to carry for one person. So I think the solution is, and I know it's going to sound so corny, but you really do need community. You really
Oh, yeah.
need community.
Yeah.
Surviving this by yourself is a non-starter. I
Mhm.
think that if it does not make it uh, unsurmountable as a barrier, it will definitely increase the amount of time you spend in that dark place.
Mhm.
Community is what we are used to using to navigate those moments, right? And I think I mentioned this to Addison in a conversation before. I remember my mom going to Tupperware parties and the girls playing cards around the table after dinner, or Saturday trips to the market and into doing the bingo hall and whatever. But they were these ways that they kept themselves in close community with each other. And looking back, I realized that, because I would joke and say, like, they never sell anything at the Tupperware party. She don't ever sell anything. Like, we just keep coming over here and we're having these meetups and these women, and nobody's buying anything. They're just sitting around talking. But that's what it was for. Wasn't ever for the Tupperware. It was for those very moments where you're tired, you're overwhelmed, the kids need things, your husband needs things, your parents need things, your work is calling you, you're trying to go back to school, you're trying, and navigating all those things. Those pockets of peace came from being in community. And
Mhm.
so
And
and
go
so
ahead.
I suggest, and that's why I was like, you were like, oh yeah, get to know Alex. I was like, no, I'm keeping everybody here. I need as much community as possible, because what it does is it gives you a sounding board. It gives you a different perspective. It gives you more resource, and it builds your capacity instantly. If you
Mhm.
try to face this alone, if you continue to think that your social media, right, it's helping, that you're staying connected via social
Mhm.
media, and it is actually not. It is actually diminishing your capacity to be in community, true community with people. You need to really figure out ways. And it's funny because we also find it the hardest. That's usually the hardest time we find in ourselves, to go out and build community when we're like this, right? But that's the time we
Yeah.
need it the most. And so I also implore people to think about what community looks like and out of the trenches, right? And think about the fact that a majority of the pivoting, the rebuilding, the reconfiguring, the necessity breeding invention does not happen successfully on your own. Like, it's typically not something you do solely by yourself. And if you do, you definitely won't go as far as you would have with others. So my suggestion is community and seeking sisterhood, finding a Chico system you can depend on. This is not a jab at men. This is not a jab at your partner. This is not a knock at guys who are friends. But women have a very distinct understanding of the weight that you're under, and understand the innate responsibility that you carry. Even if you're not a mom, you're still a daughter, and you're still expected to take care of your parents, even though you have five brothers, right? And so we carry a certain weight with us that I think personally, um is what will carry us through this rough political economic climate. We're the only ones not freaking out because we've been doing this. Like Angela said, like, being a mom in itself, just kind of, you just knocked off 4 or 5 different job or experiences in one bucket, and that's just one role and one hat that I wear. What we've been trained and built to do, to show up in pain, whether we have cramps or not, because that's just the thing. It shouldn't be a special consideration. Whether we're tired, whether we're post premenopausal or suffering from post traumatic stress from pregnancy, we're still expected.
Endometriosis.
Exactly. We're still expected to show up. We're still expected to perform, and we're expected to outperform just to maintain basic levels of respect and expectation of people. So I think that if we have community and we have each other, we have all we need to not only ride the wave, but strive through it. So thrive through it. So yeah, I would suggest finding, leaning in, and building community that you can trust.
Can I speak to that
Do
for a
you
second,
think?
Madison? I just want to say, like, I definitely agree with you, but sometimes it is hard to find
Okay, to
support.
Shay, turn up your sound.
Can you guys hear me now? So sometimes it's hard to find
There's an echo.
too, especially being a person of color. Hard to find support in
Tishay,
those.
are you on mute?
Try it again. Can you guys hear me? No.
Not really.
Oh.
I'm gonna see if I can fix my volume. You guys can continue while I
We
try.
must pivot.
Yeah, so we pivot these because I mean we've made it 45 minutes without the echo.
It seems
Okay.
gone now.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Addison, I would like to chime in for a moment.
What?
I would like to chime in for a moment in this conversation.
Certainly.
As far as this lady's concerned who wants to badly get a job in the cannabis industry and cannot find a job, I don't know what she was looking for in terms of work, but personally, what I would do is get a job somewhere else and then try to get into the cannabis industry.
Oh, I tell women, don't quit your day job. You
No,
know,
Yeah.
you can't.
you just don't quit your day job. Because the cannabis industry, even if you're no matter, even if you're an ancillary business, you're affected by the regulations. You're affected by everything that goes on. Um,
You could be willing to step into a role of bud tender, though, or start at the bottom, and those bud tenders that show initiative move up through corporate very quickly.
uh,
And not just in dispensaries. Go to the grow farms. Go stuff pre rolls. Anything to get your foot in the door, even if you're cleaning the building. You know,
Yeah, yeah, for
once
sure.
you get
I always tell people that I notice that folks go into the cannabis industry trying to reinvent themselves in a sense. Like they go like, oh, I'm going to make my resume what the cannabis industry is looking for, as opposed to bringing who they are to the cannabis industry, because clearly it's going to be needed, but they don't realize that. So like for instance, I had a woman reach out and she's like, yes, I want to start a business and I'm shifting and I want to join the cannabis industry, and I started doing baked edibles and sharing these baked infused treats with my family and friends, and they love them and they're encouraging me. And I'm thinking she's not in the state that she's allowed to do this at, right? And I asked her what she's doing for her day-to-day life, and she tells me she's the top certified public accountant in the state of Georgia.
Cannabis
And
accountant.
I'm thinking, well, why don't you be that for the cannabis industry? She's like, oh, I didn't think about that. So you're going to abandon all the experience and knowledge and the accolades you've built in this industry and go bake brownies. This is why we need community. We need to be able to say, no, girl, that's not it. Pause. Like, let's redirect this and figure out where we can sit your energy that would be worth having it. Because, like you said, you can start at the bottom, work your way up, but at least be landing in the market, the field, the respective pool that you would do the best in. So I definitely agree with that. And to your point, I think I heard what you were saying, that it is hard to find community, especially that identify and look like you. I know that is why I did hire. It is a barrier, but I blame social media, and I look forward to us
Oh my
leaning
God,
farther
yeah.
into more third spaces.
Now, and I'll tell you something too. I've been hearing a lot, and I've even been hearing it from a lot of professionals, that people
There's a
are
big echo.
tired of
Hello.
being sequestered.
Okay,
Hold on a
Tart Tube
second.
ladies.
There's a terrible echo.
I
Right.
know, and I've tried everything to get rid of it, which is just very irritating since okay, it's gone, isn't it?
Yes.
I
Yep.
was gonna say it's in and out.
Oh,
Oh,
Maybe
they're
you
well
have
done.
to
Okay.
because this
yeah.
is probably not the right time for me to bitch about having to upgrade everything all the time just to solve one problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is also too good of a conversation to stop.
Right.
Um, I'm very big on community. But in the cannabis industry, I think it isolates women, not intentionally, but
No.
just because as women we've got so much going on, and we can't always make it to the larger conventions or conferences where we can have those in-person conversations. But I think the key word is conversations, is doing things like what we're doing right now. I think conversations builds community.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I said, I've been hearing a lot that people have been craving personal interaction after COVID hit, and a lot of the community was sequestered, and then they got comfortable working from home, and now they're at a point where they need that physical, interaction with people, and especially seniors. um so this is something that's going to be up and coming. Actually, I'm launching something, but that has nothing to do. But at the end of the day, this is what people want. People want community. And now, even especially in the cannabis community, you know, people have to realize you're not alone. We're
Yeah,
all going through it. We're all going through the same thing.
yeah.
But there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
I apologize for having the echo back.
Uh,
Although I'd like to continue because this is just too good of a conversation, and I have no explanation why we have this. Um,
You know, but Sheena and Liz are both right. And I tell people all the time that I'm always up for a cannabis conversation. I don't know,
Always.
you don't know me. And I find that sharing horror stories lets people know that shit happens.
It's the best bonding ritual
Oh,
ever.
Honestly,
yeah.
right.
I'll tell one and they'll tell me.
Childbirth.
By the end of it, we both feel a little better knowing that we're in a jacked up spot, but we're not alone and that this stuff absolutely happens.
Hmm.
I'll touch base with, a couple of the same women once a month just to pitch a bitch, just to get it off our chest. And then we're like, oh, okay, I can go back to the madness. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It helps us get through. And, like Liz was saying, it's COVID gave us, this online interaction, which is one of the good things I think that came out of COVID. It wasn't, your only interaction was in the office. But on the same turn, you kind of lost, your line in the sand, like I'm off work, I'm off work.
Right.
You
Yes.
know what I mean? So it's kind of a double-edged sword. But I absolutely will sit down with any of you ladies on a Tuesday afternoon and just, tell me what wall you ran into this week, or tell me the most stupidest thing that came out of somebody's mouth this week. Face show that they were.
I don't know. I work with politicians. I don't know.
I was getting ready to say,
I don't know if you want to hear this one.
she
Addison,
in politics. She done heard all of it.
You got
um,
there.
Listen, to me, the stupidest thing is recreational staying Schedule 1, and medical is going to Schedule 3, but if I took a picture of that plant on one side and took a picture of the same plant on the other side and said, okay, show me which one's the medical, it's
Yeah.
the same plant. And nobody seems to get that.
Oh, how
That
about
is why we need people in office that represent and know about the cannabis industry. Like
it?
I've had this conversation with so many people. We have people that are not in the trenches that are reading things and hearing secondhand about the cannabis industry. I consume cannabis. I got in the industry because it saved my life. Like I think that it is a medical resource in my community. Most folks who don't consume cannabis are on opioids
Yeah.
and they're lost, they're gone. And I know before the pandemic, this was a big topic, but we stopped talking about it. And cannabis is actually a solution to that because it helps a lot of folks I know consume cannabis to get off of the opioids.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's you hear that more often than not, and especially, I hate to keep saying it, but I am one. Seniors, we are so overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and we, whether we smoked in the 70s or 80s or not, we are now looking at a lot of pain. We're looking at arthritis. We're looking at insomnia. We're
Mm-hmm.
looking at anxiety that we've never had before. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Menopause.
yeah.
A lot of people are going through
Depression.
menopause.
Oh God, don't even get me started on that. You don't want to take me down.
Um,
But
Mm,
it's very important, especially for seniors, especially for the disabled,
Yeah.
and veterans. Veterans should come first.